Hello, and welcome back to Academy. My name is Farisha, and I am a senior product researcher at Aleph.
My name is Hafiz, and I'm also a senior product researcher at Aleph.
Okay, so you might be wondering, why would Aleph require senior product researchers in the first place? So a bit of what we do on the daily is work very closely with our designers, evaluating products, and also identifying what are the emerging trends of our users so that we can meet their needs, and ultimately creatively engineer something that is backed up by data.
Yeah, and that's very relevant with the topic that we want to talk about today, which is evolving the way we live. So today we'll be discussing a bit about the after effects of the pandemic, a bit of change in behavior from consumers as well, and how businesses can adapt to these changes. So enjoy.
But you know what? I actually think that this setting isn't doing it for me. And I also feel like we probably require better clothes. What do you think?
Yeah, you're right, actually. Yeah, let's change and
doll up.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's go.
Today we'll be talking about a pretty interesting topic, and it's called evolving in the way we live. So, Farisha, what do we really mean by that?
Right. So, in true research fashion, we actually did conduct a few research activities. We first started off with just research so that we could leverage secondary data. Then we did some user interviews so that we had a bit of quantitative data into the mix, and we also supplemented that with qualitative user interviews with users across the globe. And the reason we carried out these research activities is actually because we wanted to be able to uncover what are the lifestyle and behavioral changes that have occurred post-pandemic. I'm sure a lot of you can relate to having changed in some shape or form due to how the pandemic has affected us. And in turn, we also wanted to understand how has this changed consumer behaviors and what can businesses do to stay ahead of the trends and remain relevant to consumers.
Before we start, I'd like to take this opportunity to also thank all the researchers from our team that worked on this as well. We also collaborated with this researchers from Singapore, so mainly Lydia, Kezia, and Avis, together with those who supported us as well. So we have Tu An from Vietnam as well as Rose based in Malaysia as well. So thank you for making this happen, and let's jump straight into it.
All right, so we actually have two insights that we want to share with you today. And the first one is prioritize purpose and produce profits. We're going to be looking at significant changes in consumer behavior and how this shift is a direct result of the pandemic. So Hafiz, tell me, do you remember what March 2020 was like?
March 2020, that was the start of the pandemic.
Exactly.
Yeah, so, how could I not? It was the first time I was going through a pandemic. So there was so much unknown, and I never knew that, maybe like hanging out with my friends in a restaurant is illegal.
Yeah.
So everything was just very confusing for me.
And that's actually pretty much the universal experience of everyone during lockdown. Suddenly we were met with a crisis. We had so much time to look in and reflect. And consumers actually started realizing and reshifting their focus onto things that really mattered in their lives. Cliche as it may be, time spent during lockdown and the realization that life is very short and very, very fragile sparked introspection and a reevaluation of their values and lifestyle choices. And this introspection can actually be seen throughout markets globally. So not just in Asia where you and I live, but in America, the UK, you name it. The entire world basically just went through a great rethink, and it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, that's actually pretty aligned with our findings from the survey, because what we uncovered, and I'm going to read out a few statistics, and these are just some examples of the areas where consumers have practiced introspection, right? So 75.8% are more conscious about their financial health right now. 77% are more conscious about their mental health. And then we have 83% that are more conscious about their physical health. We also see a bit of rise on environmental awareness. So now 53.4% have more awareness around the environment. And 44.8% prioritize sustainability over experience and brand reputation. So the changing core values and priorities of people are often a strong indicator of how they will behave as consumers. So what does this exactly tell us?
Okay, so as a result of this introspection, we've seen a shift in the consumer behavior in three key areas. Number one is the reevaluation of finances. So we know that the pandemic has resulted in unprecedented financial challenges for many, many people. Some have seen real hardships in careers as they have disappeared throughout lockdown, while others actually managed to save money, and a considerable amount at that. So it's no surprise that consumers are paying more attention to what they're spending on, how much they're saving, and getting the maximum value of what they're paying for. Purchases are now more intentional, with investment on long-term value being a priority.
Yeah. So next, our statistics showed a large percentage of consumers feeling more conscious about all aspects of their health as well. And when I say health, I also mean financial health, physical health, and mental health. With the stresses associated with COVID-19, such as job insecurities, infections, and health risk, caregiving responsibilities, and adjustment to remote working, consumers now view wellness through a broader lens, I would say. So we see introspection and consideration for holistic wellness playing a bigger role in their decision-making process for the consumer's lifestyle. Which also leads to the next part, which is pursuit for purpose. Another big part of this introspection was prioritizing and finding out what ultimately makes everyone happy, what makes us happy. There is a desire to contribute to something meaningful, even for major areas like your career. So we saw a lot of changes in collective mindset to question why we work and pursue what gives us fulfillment. So even if there was no stability in it, so consumers are recalibrating work-life balance and prioritizing purpose over earning more, because consumers demand more than just making a living. They also look for purpose.
So how important is it that we understand these behavioral changes? What does that mean for our consumers?
I guess customers are more willing to try new products than ever before, because what we found out was that 60 to 70% of global customers having purchased new types of products since the onset of the pandemic. And customers are increasingly focused on products that fulfill their lifestyle choices and provide more value to them. So, do you think this is true for you?
I would say that I could relate to that on a personal level. Definitely have tried a few different things during the pandemic, and I'm more open to doing so now as well.
Cool. All right.
So now that we understand the collective shift in mindset, we're going to look a bit more in detail on how that's shaped the consumers of tomorrow. The consumer model is shifting gears, and we're moving away from unsustainable and wasteful buying of products and moving more towards conscious consumerism. A consumer model representing consumption habits that have a more positive social and environmental impact. Conscious consumerism gives rise to the phenomenon of voting with your dollars. And what does this mean? When we put money toward ethically and sustainably made products, we're telling corporations there's a demand for these products.
And when we say voting with your dollars, it can actually happen across industries. So it means swapping a pick from a fast fashion brand for something thrifted or from a sustainable company. So it means buying products that have fair trade certifications and ethical labels. No matter where you're shopping, you could be making more eco-conscious decisions that benefit the environment and also the people too.
But conscious consumerism isn't just about shopping. It's also about buying only what you need and investing in sustainable, long-lasting swaps that have a positive impact and lead to environmental change. We will look at 3 major trends in conscious consumerism today.
So the first thing is the use of digital products have increased during the pandemic, of course. I think we can all relate to this, and people started to do things more online. In the last 2 decades, digitalization has had a positive impact on the environment, but at the rate that we're going, experts actually started to realize that there's also an increase in CO2 emissions caused by all these digital activities. And we predict that these emissions will go up as the years progress. More people are owning PCs now because more people work from home, for example. We're also seeing crypto skyrocket in demand. More people are, mining for these cryptocurrencies. And digital activity could account for 14% of the world's CO2 emission by 2040. But of course, the good news is there's also an increased awareness of the climate crisis. Consumers are more conscious of the impact of their own carbon footprint. 75% of adults actually reported that they worry about the impact of climate change than This in itself inspired consumers to be more proactive in reducing their own carbon footprint, opening up more opportunities for businesses to cater to this demand.
But as consumers, there's actually so much that they can do alone, and consumers shouldn't have to shoulder this responsibility alone. There's an entire funnel, actually, where each level of governance plays a part in moving towards a greener lifestyle. So let's start from the very top, governments. Some governments across the world have started implementing and enforcing policies to promote environmental, social, and governance factors, and in turn, put pressure on banks to promote sustainability in their products and offerings. Banks, on the other hand, play their role by doing exactly that, but also by offering easy access to loans and investments to companies that meet these ESG standards. This is important because it sets the pace in delivering a more sustainable economy. On the other hand, businesses have adapted to the greener demands by offering products and services that helps raise awareness of sustainability issues and in turn encourage and meet the demand of conscious consumerism. When we reach the level of consumers, well, we already know that consumers are actively trying to reduce their carbon footprint. But there's more to it. They're also going out of their way to promote low carbon lifestyles and also green consumption trends. And last but not least, we're doing this all for the future. Efforts at all levels contribute to developing robust international standards for measuring digital's ability to reduce emissions, so that eventually we're able to progress digitally and technologically while playing our role to create a greener lifestyle.
So basically, in summary, we're all connected in some shape or form, not just at the consumer level, but at societal and regulative levels too. It's a collective responsibility that is shared by everyone, resulting in a win-win situation for everyone as well.
But honestly, all of that sounds really, really daunting. I mean, where should we start? As consumers, how can we contribute?
Well, we don't need to look far because, based on our research, we observed the trend of consumers preferring local goods more, recognizing the importance from an economical, social, and sustainable perspective. Google has also found an increase in search for local businesses, while Instagram and Facebook have gone through a rise in account creation for local businesses. For example, Facebook introduced the marketplace.
But to be honest, all of that can sound really daunting.
Yeah.
Where can we start? As consumers, how can we contribute?
Well, we don't need to look far because based on our research, we observe the trend of consumers preferring local goods more. And they recognize the importance from an economical, social, and also sustainable perspective. Google actually has also found an increase in search for local businesses, while Instagram and Facebook have gone through a rise in account creation for local businesses as well. For example, Facebook did introduce a marketplace, right?
Yeah.
So this could be because consumers feel a bit more responsible to restore the economy especially after the COVID-19 hit. But maybe we can talk a bit more about that. Why exactly local businesses?
Well, actually, we do have some research that says compared to chain stores, locally owned businesses recycle a much larger share of their revenue back into the local economy, and that enriches the whole community in turn. So basically what that means is that they're keeping their dollars and cents in the local economy. But it goes beyond that, actually. When you support local businesses, you're also supporting your community. It not only creates more jobs locally, but also ensures that the important decisions are made by people who live in the community, that live through these decisions and the impacts of them as well.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. Aside from that, smaller businesses also commonly operate through platforms like WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook, right? And this actually lets them build a closer relationship with consumers and have a deeper understanding of their evolving local demands. So when small businesses focus on selecting products based not on their dollars and cents, but more so on their own interests and the needs of the community, it guarantees a much broader range of product choices.
That's really cool. So just now, remember when you said small businesses run their operations on platforms like Facebook and Instagram? Well, these are actually some use cases where these platforms have actually adapted to the rise in local consumerism. So we all know Facebook Marketplace. I've personally used it before. Facebook Marketplace now actively promotes local sellers more. And on the consumer end of things, they display products that are nearby to them. So this promotes easy accessibility to local local consumers to buy from local sellers. Another example is Instagram, which we've seen the change well past photo sharing. Now there's a bit more commerce to it. So we take Insta shops used to be a thing around 2013 maybe, where people would share their products through a photo, right? But now Instagram actually has their own section called Shop, which also gives local businesses a bit more exposure and also the ability to catalog and sell their products through Instagram, basically.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'll actually do you one better.
Wow.
So WhatsApp has a similar catalog feature for local businesses so that they can promote and catalog their products through their business accounts on WhatsApp. But these catalogs can be found directly inside chats, so consumers don't have to stray far to find what they want and contact the sellers once they find it.
Wow, that's cool. So basically what we're trying to say is local consumerism actually helps restore economy and also support local businesses more. But now that consumers are a bit more purposeful, they are also more selective with brands because we see purchases that are more driven by emotional factors rather than rational ones. And actually this introduces an opportunity for brands, right? So how exactly can brands leverage on this?
I know. I've heard about emotive experiences, but I don't know much about it.
Exactly, through emotive experiences. So it's about making sure that the consumer feel that the businesses are not only aligned with, but support their personal goals as well.
Yeah.
So I can share with you a few examples of how we can leverage on emotional customer experience. So the first one is a unique social identity, right? So how can you position your brand in a way that stands out from the crowd, but not just as marketing, but also in a way that has social impact. So another example is confidence in the future, also ensuring that your brand isn't just relevant today, but thinks of longevity, right? Of helping the future generation as well. Next example, sense of well-being. So your businesses should also contribute or aid with your customers' holistic health. So when I say holistic health, I mean mental, physical, and emotional health. And finally, self-improvement, right? Encouraging consumers with their personal growth, continuing to push them into being the best version of themselves, promoting self-improvement, maybe it's in terms of finances, maybe, yeah. So being the best business for the world will be the best business in the world. And how exactly can we be that?
Do the 4 Ps.
4 Ps.
Yeah. So let me tell you a bit on what the 4 Ps mean. So we have purpose, people, planet, and profit. What consumers expect now is a business with a purpose, a business with a soul. And we can take Standard Chartered, for example, right? They launched the amazing We Are Here for Good campaign. This was phenomenal. It explains the brand's position that as a bank, we can do things for good in the world. One of the many advertisements in this campaign showed how it uses its network and scale as a global bank to track the money in illegal elephant poaching and report the activity to authorities.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool.
So banking isn't just about managing your finances, but it's also about how do we impact other facets of the world as well.
That's cool.
Next, we have people. So think about what we said regarding local businesses and supporting local communities, right? Consumers want businesses that collaborate to improve the lives of the general community, not just drive revenue for stakeholders.
I see.
Okay. And we also have planet. Wasteful products are getting ditched by consumers. So gone are the days when there were boxes within a box. Environmentally friendly packaging is now guiding consumers' decisions as well as responsibly harvesting ingredients. So for example, when I got my iPhone shipped to me earlier last year, I was actually really surprised to unbox it and find that there were no styrofoams or bubble wrap in it.
Yeah.
Apple had actually found a way to wrap the item so that my phone was secure without inserting any single-use plastic. And that actually gave me confidence to get my next purchase from Apple as well.
Apple, if you're watching this, sponsor us.
And last but not least, we do have profit. Rather than focusing on business profit, it shouldn't come at the expense of the business's ESG obligations. Consumers want businesses that look beyond that focus on the impact of local, national, and global economies. So as a key takeaway, I'm just going to leave you with 3 important statements. Number 1, your brand's political and social positions matter. Number 2, your brand should serve the community and prioritize authenticity. And lastly, your consumers' well-being and engagement is paramount.
Cool. Yeah, so that was the end of our first insight where we talked a bit about purpose and recalibration and reevaluation, right? Introspection. Now we arrive at the second insight where we go in depth in how digitalization has sped up across economies due to the pandemic. We will also go through some of the emerging trends that are a hot topic at the moment and how these trends could potentially evolve moving forward.
All right.
So what is your take on digital first lifestyle at the moment?
Well, digital was already a buzzword even before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And that was for businesses that were just starting on their research to transition into going digital themselves. Pre-pandemic, we already started seeing millions of consumers migrate online, and the pandemic showed the true staying power of going online.
Yeah.
So things like shopping, things like accessing services, we see consumers now proactively deepening their usage of online and choosing digital first lifestyles.
Yeah, and with the pandemic that just hit, the crisis actually accelerated the digitalization process of consumer interactions by several years actually.
Wow.
Yeah, so across regions we can see that the results suggest a 7-year increase on average in which companies are developing digital products and services. However, in Asia, there's actually an even greater leap. Let's talk about some of the things that have become the new norm.
Yeah.
Expectations for digital means have definitely increased by consumers now, and digitalization occurs probably at least like 70% of our daily lives.
That's a lot.
Yeah. First, let's talk about online first shopping experiences. Before the pandemic hit, e-commerce was already seeing some kind of growth, right? The world moved online during the pandemic, and we see online sales actually peaking. And due to that, e-commerce has actually penetrated into more consumers, especially those that were not the business customers back then. So consumers who used to buy things offline have actually started to buy things online now. And they understand the value of buying things online. So, because of a lot of reasons, they have stayed. Yeah.
That's interesting. But taking it a step further, I don't think this is exclusive to only shopping, but generally in day-to-day routines as well.
Yeah, that's true.
So when we talk about digital day-to-day routines, right, we see consumers expanding the use cases for apps and technology in their day-to-day lives, as well as experimenting with new cashless payments like contactless payments, right?
Yeah.
So remember when we said consumers are more open to purchasing new things, but they're also more open to trying out new digital services. And although digital wallets kind of started out as a way to pay safely during the pandemic, going contactless and making sure that they don't risk their health, the ease and the convenience that it brings are actually converting consumers full-time.
Yeah.
And that being said, COVID-19 actually created an urgency for people and businesses to meet online. Searches revealed that a rise in digital preferred behavior is now prevalent. At first, businesses were just responding to the initial rush of online by finding flexibility. However, the fast evolving online landscape calls for more agility that is not only COVID-proof, but also future-proof.
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, a lot of the things that we're seeing today are here to stay. But what do you feel about that? Do you resonate with this point? Do you think there's any changes in the way that you do things now? Maybe before it was offline and now it's online?
Yeah, actually, I see two things come to mind when I think about this. First one is in terms of socializing. I prefer to socialize online now.
Yeah.
Maybe through games and stuff. And also when I go to restaurants, I don't interact with the waiters there anymore. I just order things online. They have like a QR code that you can scan, and then you just pay right away, which I think is much easier. Which also supports our next point, which is preference for digital formats. So the pandemic actually allowed many businesses to not only continue driving revenue and products off their shelves, but foster deeper, more meaningful relationships with the customers online. And because of that, consumers expect the demand to increase even further now, especially now that we're in post-pandemic. which signifies a positive attitude in the market for dynamic digital offerings. So it could be the start of a new era where digital products are actually much more preferable over their physical formats.
Yeah.
Because of the value and significance that it gives. Searches for digital formats also continue to gain momentum as consumers entertain themselves online. For example, like streaming on connected TV has taken off. Live commerce is expanding its reach, and even when people take a break from the screen, they're actually going to another screen, right?
Yeah.
People don't really read books from an actual book anymore.
Yeah.
They start buying ebooks. Yeah, because that way they can enjoy it on the go. Which I thought was very interesting. Yeah.
Right. So we understand that globally there has been an acceleration in digitalization.
Yeah.
But we also see that digitalization happens at a different pace in different economies. So basically what that means is it impacts everyone, but just at different lengths across the world. Interesting. I feel like I can relate to that because, in Malaysia we have different types of payment methods. We have cash, obviously. We have, tap to pay with your debit card. We have multiple e-wallets. Yeah. But we only recently had Apple Pay within this month, which is interesting because countries like the US and Singapore, they've actually had it for a really long time. They've had it since 2014.
So that's because US and Singapore, they sit in a different level of economy compared to Malaysia. So we have 4 economies which I will briefly explain to you. So the first one is standout, which is the most technologically advanced. This zone actually includes economies with both high levels of digitalization and also high level of momentum when it comes to all these digital capability advancements. So 3 economies that are notable that comes to my mind. First one is places like South Korea. We also have Singapore and also Hong Kong. Second one is breakout. So this one is characterized by economies with limited existing digital infrastructure, but they are also still rapidly digitizing. Does that sound familiar? Malaysia? Yeah. So China is also a very noteworthy outlier in this group because its digital evolution is significantly higher than that of all the other economies. But due in large part to its combination of rapidly growing demand and innovation. And then we have stall out. So this zone is characterized by economies that they already have mature digital landscapes, but maybe they're not really advancing as fast as all the other countries. And this could be because they have intentionally chose to do it that way. Maybe they have other parts of the economy that they want to focus on rather than digitalization. And finally, we have the watch out zone, right? So this zone includes countries across Africa, across Asia, Latin America, and also like Southern Europe, where these countries actually have shortcomings in terms of digital capabilities and also like momentum for future development. So these countries in the watch out zone will look up to economies in the breakout zones because they look at them as like role models and they learn from them on how to use digital growth as a lever for economic resilience.
Okay, so a bit of benchmarking there. So thanks, Hafiz, for that really elaborative explanation about the different levels of economies and how they've accelerated digitalization. So now let's try to understand how exactly these countries are prioritizing their growth. What can we learn from them? So first and foremost, we want to expand adoption and invest in digital consumer tools. So think e-commerce, digital payments, entertainment, all of those so that we can solve pressing needs of the nation and also give them equal access to digital conveniences.
For example, like your Apple Pay.
Yeah, like my Apple Pay. Really salty about that one. And then that actually transitions quite well to our next point is we also want to invest in infrastructure that will increase digital inclusion. That means everyone has the same access to these digital conveniences. And then once you have a digital native nation, you can then start attracting, training, and retaining your digital talents.
Absolutely.
Cool.
So based on these economies, there are definitely a lot of opportunities and innovation that will come in, right?
Yeah.
For today, we will just be focusing on mainly 3. And I'm sure that everyone that watches this have at least heard of maybe one or two of these, right? So we have the Metaverse, we have AR, VR, and also like data or AI. We're going to talk about how these are being implemented and what are the potential future trends around these technologies that could potentially happen. But before that, let's first try to understand why consumers are very receptive toward these technology trends that we are uncovering, that we're about to discuss today.
Okay.
So this generation is being brought up in a very stimulating environment, filled with technology and also like making them very accustomed to trying out new things.
Yeah.
And this is because like our generation actually jumped from device to device. From laptops to phones to tablets or even like gaming devices, right? And because of that, this generation has become very used to multitasking, because of their ability to multitask, they can jump between activities at a higher rate. So there's actually a very big misconception about today's generation having a shorter attention span, where the reality is actually the generation just tends to devote their time more to things that of importance to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one thing that I really want to unpack is the future of engagement, the metaverse. I'm sure some, if not all of you have heard this term. Facebook actually caught the world's attention when it rebranded under the name Meta.
Yeah.
One of the most critical metaverse trends is the mainstream discussion of itself. People are discussing every aspect of the metaverse. So they're taking note of all the corporate interest in it. They're taking note of how advanced technology has become as VR gaming grows. And they're also seeing article after article about related technologies like NFTs, like virtual worlds, and devices used to access the metaverse. And taking that a step further, our data, based on our survey, actually tells us that a whopping 80.5% of 80.5% of respondents expressed that they are likely to use the metaverse in the next 5 years. So what are some of the motivations that consumers have in adapting the metaverse into their daily lives? Because it seems like a very, very novel concept that is also very attention-grabbing and interesting.
Actually, right, our survey suggests that consumers are generally more accepting of new digital solutions, and because of that, they have the urge to adapt to anything that is new and fits in their daily lives or daily routines. We also see some trends around what we discussed earlier in Site 1 about sustainability, how consumers are a bit more conscious in the things that they do or the things that they buy. And because of that, if the metaverse has any sort of positive impact towards the environment or towards social issues, consumers would definitely accept it even more.
Yeah, conscious consumerism.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, consumers also see a lot of potential in the metaverse. They believe that there's still a lot of room for improvement. And I guess the only concern that they have based on our data is the gap in literacy and inclusivity. Something to think about. How can we empower the less tech savvy in adopting the metaverse? And increase inclusion in terms of adopting this technology and giving access to people without any as much access to technology as other people, you know what I mean? So I guess now that we understand a little more about the whole metaverse as a concept, what are your thoughts around, how things are currently being implemented, Have you personally encountered anything to do with the metaverse at all?
Well, personally, not yet. But I am interested in it. I have read my fair share on, what the metaverse is like and how they're implementing it. One example that really stood out to me is how it's being implemented in digital wayfinding. So, if you think about Google Maps or like Apple Maps, right? So if you're creating like wayfinding for a stadium or a theme park, right, there are some core principles that must be considered in order for visitors to navigate along the journey. And this basically ensures that visitors are informed of what products, what attractions, and what facilities are available. And on the business side, potentially increases revenue. Another example, which I think is much more relatable, is how it's been implemented in retail and e-commerce. So we're all big shoppers here. We also know that consumers are shopping more and more online. That's something that's here to stay. So millions of people are already logging into existing metaverses on a daily basis. And this represents a major new channel for brands to tap into. 3D and AR also allow customers to better visualize their potential purchases and are proven to help in making better informed decisions, leading to fewer product returns. So I know that sounds a bit ambiguous, right? But just think if I had a digital twin of myself, right? I could go to H&M or Zara and just try whatever clothes that I want to buy from them on my digital avatar without having to go to the store myself, and I'll see whether I like it on me or not.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Time saving.
Actually, you don't even need to like visit the stores anymore. If you have a complete virtual replica of yourself, you can literally just see how it looks on that person, right? I guess I just want to share one final example, which is around experiential virtual events, right?
Okay.
I feel that Metaverse can actually extend more collaborative and immersive offerings to virtual events for a unique, futuristic experience. So, as an example, let's talk about gaming, right? For example, so gaming has shown us the promise of the Metaverse. Today's online games expand its power with real-world brands designing and selling virtual items and experiences online. For example, like Louis Vuitton.
Yeah.
I don't know if I pronounced it right. Hopefully I did.
My favorite brand. You got it right.
Yeah, but like they actually raise product awareness through a game called League of Legends, where people are able to buy a virtual collection that they can also buy online for themselves in the real world, which I thought was pretty cool. Ferrari as well, they let Fortnite players. Have you heard of Fortnite? It's actually a very it's a very popular game.
Okay.
Yeah, that
seems
also
like your favorite.
Yeah, so Ferrari also leveraged on Metaverse. They actually collaborated with Fortnite and let users to test drive their new Ferrari model. I think it was the 296 GTB.
Not a car person, so I don't think
I don't
relevant.
I don't know if I'm saying it right either. Okay. So Ferrari fans, I'm so sorry. But yeah, so when you're testing out this car, it even lets you try the
speed limit.
The speed limit, yeah, the actual the maximum speed. That's what I mean.
And you can do that from home?
Yeah, you can actually try it.
crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And of course, not to forget Travis Scott's historical event, right? His first ever virtual concert on Fortnite, which I thought was very cool. I was actually there. Yeah, it was a very immersive experience. Yeah.
You were there, but you weren't there.
Yeah, so I think that set the stage for like future Metaverse concerts, right? We see Ariana Grande having a virtual concert. We see Justin Bieber doing it. So I think moving forward, there's definitely going to be more of those happening. Yeah.
Cool.
So pretty interesting implementation of the Metaverse, right? Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of like potential for future development and potential for this. In your opinion, like what does the future of the Metaverse look like to you?
That's a big one.
Yeah.
I think that the Metaverse opens up a lot of opportunities for innovation. You know, everything that we're seeing now is part of innovation. For example, in education, there is a huge potential for the next generation classrooms. If you could imagine, teleporting from a history class in ancient Greece to maybe an astronomy class held on Mars.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so basically any given interface or application can allow you an immersive experience while just at, the foot of your bed. And although metaverse experiences will not completely replace, digital interactions via apps, websites, and all that, they are likely to pave the way for new types of business models so that we can optimize these new use cases, and also enhance interactivity and learning through natural human-like interactions with digital avatars. Isn't that so cool?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Why didn't we have that during our education phase? Another example that I read about is the digital real estate. And real estate in the Metaverse sales amounted to about 501 million in 2021 already. And it exceeded 85 million in January this year alone. So at the pace that we're going, this market could easily reach 1 billion by the end of 2022.
Yeah, I saw that actually. There are like businesses and brands selling a plot of land in the Metaverse and people are actively buying it.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, and it's limitless. you know? So that's something really, really cool that's happening in the future. One final example that I do want to talk about is basically in virtual training and ideation. And so the current digital learning solutions are flat, which basically means, you know, they're created for mobile, they're created for desktop. We're looking at everything in 2D. When I switched jobs, I also met everyone in 2D first before I met them in real life in 3D. And so when it comes to virtual training and ideation, we need hyper-realistic and practical digital training to upskill and reskill the workforce. This actually helps us develop better skills online rather than needing to wait, you know, until maybe the lockdown is over in order to enhance these skills. So learning in the metaverse feels real, and forward-thinking companies are already investing and reaping the benefits of this kind of immersive learning.
I think that would be really good in like industries like healthcare, you know, when doctors are training on how to do a certain surgery and then they just try it on the metaverse.
And it's without risking a patient as well.
Exactly.
It makes it much more realistic.
Cool. Yeah. So to support the adoption of the metaverse, we also see a global spending on AR and VR headsets, softwares and services has risen over 50% actually post-pandemic since like 2019. So this means like consumers are less hesitant to actively implement AR and VR technology in things like education and retail and stuff. So if we compare the current technology against that of 4 years ago, we actually see a great difference because current AR experiences are richer and more realistic. And another thing driving development of AR and VR is that both mobile devices and also like
if we compare.
So if we compare the current technology against that of 4 years ago, we see a great difference as well because current AR experiences are richer and a bit more realistic. Another thing driving the development of AR or VR is that both mobile devices generally have reached a greater hardware power than ever before. So this allows like the implementation of more complex projects as well. But I'd like to know your thoughts. Like, what are your thoughts around AR and VR technology?
Well, we know that companies already use AR and VR technologies for educational purposes. Their workers or their students can acquire complex technical skills or even master a new profession without leaving home. So that's great. But we also see AR and VR technologies becoming popular in the in the retail businesses as well. Retailers are actively seeing the potential of this technology and trying to utilize it to its full extent. So for example, you know, I talked a bit about having a digital twin so that I could, you know, do virtual clothes fitting. Something like a virtual clothes fitting app could be a great technological extension for retail businesses. You also mentioned healthcare before. And one of the most beneficial uses of VR technology is in healthcare itself. We see a lot of potential in that. There is already VR experiences that aid in treating things like PTSD, autism, and even ADHD. So when we combine this technology with therapies and other medication, we can effectively treat many, many psychological disorders.
That's pretty cool. Just now you mentioned something about retail, right? So I know Macy's in the US does this really well. They implement AR technology through like a holographic mirror that encourages like customers to try cosmetic products and stuff. So they can just go to the mirror and try makeup without the inconvenience of having to wipe off the product every time. So you can try multiple products on. VR also has been explored by allowing customers to place various furnitures around the house. So places like not just Macy's but also IKEA, right? You are able to use augmented reality to see where a certain furniture fits. So speaking of like the makeup stuff, right? Farisha, you like makeup, right?
No, could you tell? I put me some lipstick on.
So like, I'm just curious, would you use something like the holographic mirror in Malaysia?
Honestly, I really would. So two things. Number one is definitely like if I have a full face of makeup, not like now I'm barefaced now, but like if I have a full face of makeup on and I want to try a new lipstick or a new blush or a new contour. I know that you don't know what any of that means. But It is difficult because there is that whole hygiene aspect. You know, they stopped testing during COVID. And also, it's really hard to tell if it matches my skin tone or not just on like eyeballing it. So I think that that's definitely something that I would use. Sorry, didn't mean to nerd out on you there.
So basically, like you would use it, all these like blushies and contacts and...
Yeah, you got that 100% correct. That's exactly what I said.
Blushies, yeah, all right.
Yeah. So makeup aside, I know you must be wondering what is the future of AR VR, right? And is there any more room for innovation? Well, I think this opens up a huge opportunity for the growth of content in this market as a result from, you know, the increase in demand for AR and VR devices, as well as an increase in the number of AR and VR headset manufacturers. So now we have Google, we have HTC, we have Oculus, and many, many, many others. So users will continue to download the VR and AR content on their smartphones, especially AR-capable mobile devices. The growth in the demand for 360-degree videos will also continue providing opportunities for content creators, so any kind of content creators, influencers, TikTokers, YouTubers, to provide this kind of content to this new market.
Content creators like alephacademy, you know?
Yeah.
alephacademy.
The best.
Yeah, so I guess I'd like to also talk about immersive entertainment, right? So, for example, like VR sports, it is actually an emerging industry right now that has already witnessed funding and sponsorships in like billions of dollars for implementing AR VR. So football teams like, you know, the best team in the world, Manchester City.
Debatable.
And also like Juventus are experimenting AR VR features and are developing interactive applications to be used with like Meta's Oculus headsets. Yeah.
You know, aside from sports, there has also been some buzz about virtual art as well, or, you know, art from the real world being offered as an AR experience. So, you know, for example, we do know that there are auction houses in the world that have begun offering AR experiences to bidders through an Instagram filter, and that basically allows them to experience and see the art up close and personal. So, you know, imagine you don't have to fly all the way to New York to see Mona Lisa or go to Amsterdam to see Van Gogh's paintings, right? You can just see it from the comfort of your home, but still get almost the full experience and identical experience of it through AR and VR.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so virtual reality gives students, it gives historians and enthusiasts alike an amazing opportunity to travel and experience history, culture, and art like never before.
Right, thank you for that. So like, Metaverse and AR VR are all very like immersive visual experiences. Yeah. But how exactly can like businesses understand their customers even more and show them or have them consume what is relevant to them, right? This is where like data and AI plays a big part in. So did you know that, fun fact, right? Did you know that the average person produces 2.5, not million, not trillion, but quintillion bytes of data every day.
Every day?
Yeah, through their connected devices. Can you imagine?
That's great.
So put that phone away. Yeah, that's crazy. That's a crazy amount of data. Yeah. So businesses are looking for ways to capitalize on that. Competitive advantage truly emerge when firms create detailed snapshots of their customers. It allows businesses to build a more relevant relationships with them and also preemptively address their needs before they even like realize it. Yeah.
Interesting. It's really interesting that you mentioned that. It's because I know that Shein uses AI and data very well. So Shein, if you don't know what that is kind of like Zara in a sense where they mass produce fashion items that you can buy directly from their app.
Okay.
And they've basically started a next revolution in the fashion industry. Shein uses AI to derive new product ideas from search and social media behavior within a specific country. So if they see in Malaysia that, you know, baggy jeans are trending, then they will then translate all these, they'll get their army of like 1,000 designers to translate all of these design ideas into new pieces of clothing and actually only push limited amounts to be manufactured and supplied. And if this product proves to be popular based on the viewing and buying behavior in the web shop, then that is when they will increase the manufacturing order in real time. So basically what that means is if you're scrolling through Shein, there's a likely hood that what you're looking at is not a real product yet, but it's just a concept idea that they want to gauge whether it's going to be popular or not.
That's cool.
Yeah. Have you bought from Shein before?
Actually, I have never. Do they sell like Man City jerseys?
I think that's out of their element.
Well, you know what? Maybe after this, I might try Shein because now that I know that they understand what I want.
Yeah. Don't be fooled. They're not only for girl clothes. I know that they're called Shein, but they do have male clothes as well.
Okay, so it's like Wein.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, so that's a very like futuristic trend.
Just happening in the now.
Yeah, happening in the now. So you must be wondering, what is the future of AI? What is it looking like, right? So first, we can expect next-gen customer experiences like the Metaverse and cryptocurrencies that have garnered a lot of buzz.
Yeah.
For instance, like blockchain, cryptocurrency, and distributed finance at their core are all about integrating frictionless capitalism into the economy. Other than that, echoing from our first insight around sustainability as well, we can also expect AI to address climate crisis. Pretty cool, right? So how do they do it? They actually have this thing called a digital twin Earth, where they simulate, they do simulations of the Earth in the future that uses a staggering amount of data, real-time data actually, and computation to detect like any nuanced trends imperceptible to the human senses. Finally, the last future trend that I would like to give an example about is also like personalized medicine. So just now you mentioned about digital twin, right? Trying on clothes, but I'll do you one better. Digital twin trying out your medicine. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So
I think a bit of competition is happening between me and my twin.
Yeah, so simply put, like AI is uniquely suited to construct and analyze our digital twin. So this digital twin will have like very similar complexity in terms of DNA. Yeah, and because of that, AI solutions have the potential to not only improve the state of the art in healthcare, but also like play a major role in reducing persistent health inequities without trying it on humans, just trying it on your avatar, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
So my digital twin is basically doing all the dirty work for me.
Exactly.
Love that.
She must be going through a really
hard time. It's okay. We'll support her emotionally.
Yeah, but simply put, the applications of AI are likely to impact critical facets of our economy and society over like the coming decade.
Nice.
Yeah.
So with these trends, we can only expect an all-in-one digital and physical blend of a future. Gartner actually predicted that in the next 3 years or so, 40% of businesses from all industries will have to put into place the anywhere business operations model to ensure a blended virtual and physical experience for employees and consumers. This basically allows a company to conduct almost every aspect of its business remotely. And this doesn't just mean in a physical setting. We can also expect businesses to happen in a virtual environment, maybe in the Metaverse. Maybe there will be a time where you'll take a job interview in a venue that can only be accessed in the Metaverse. And this doesn't just mean in a physical setting. We can also expect businesses to happen in a virtual environment, maybe in the Metaverse. Maybe there will be a time where you'll take a job interview in a venue that's only accessible in the Metaverse for a job that's only available in the Metaverse.
That's pretty cool. I'm going to apply for that.
My next move.
Yeah, but I'm sorry to be a Debbie Downer, right? But with innovation, challenges do come along. So some things to note and keep in mind. Because with every innovation, there's always a problem or challenges that comes. First obvious one is, economic inequality. So those who are highly connected and are tech savvy will pull further ahead in comparison to those who have less access to digital tools and less training as well. Yeah, we can also see like powerful big tech firms that could exploit the market because they have the power to. They have a lot of data, right? And then we have the third point, which is the spread of misinformation. So as an extreme example, manipulating public perception, emotion, and action via online disinformation. So through lies and hate speech, deliberately weaponized in order to propagate destructive biases and fears. Yeah. But as we gather more data, we need to also ensure that we use them responsibly. So more regulation required to ensure that AI doesn't negatively impact personal privacy and the right to freedom from like discrimination. Other than that, we also see mobile internet access being a strong driver for momentum, especially for like breakout economies. And it is the fastest route to getting the third of the global population that doesn't have internet connectivity online. And building off that, we also have the innovation inclusion trade-off. So once economies reach like a higher level of digital evolution, they often encounter like a trade-off between maintaining their rapid momentum, going even further in digitalization, or fostering institutions that prioritize like digital inclusion instead. So with all that information that we have discussed about today, what is the future of human connection to you? What do you think will happen?
Well, first and foremost, I feel like the discussion that we've had is a really healthy one, and it's sad that it's coming to an end. But I think the main key takeaway here is that digitalization is coming. And, for many cases, it's already here. But the impact that it will have on societies, on human lives, and the planet still remains to be seen. If digitalization is truly an element of great social change, then it has to be sustainable, it has to be fair, and it has to be relevant to all people and working for the common good. Sustainability and purpose can be a driving force of innovation and the new business models, whereas the approaches of innovation contributes to sustainability, providing new agendas of economic, social, and environmental purposes. That's how I would summarize it.
All right, that's really nicely said. Thank you so much for that. I think it's a really nice way to end our discussion today. Right, so we'd like to say thank you to the Aleph Academy team for inviting us today and making it happen. Also, thank you so much to the viewers for your time and your attention today, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, we really do hope that you have learned a thing or two based on our sharings, and that's all that we have for today. See you next time, guys. Thank you, bye-bye.
Bye.